Ideas connected with the underworld to which the ghosts goes are exceedingly interesting. The Negroes and the Bantus are at one on these subjects, and in particular only, and that is no marriage takes place there. The Sishwis say that this underworld, Shramadeze, is just the same as this world in all other particulars, save that it is dimmer, a veritable shadowland, where men have not the joys of life, but only the shadow of the joy. Hence, say the Shwi proverb, one day in this world is worth a year in Shramandazi. The Shwis, with their usual definitiveness in this sort of detail, know all about their Shramandazi. Its entrance is just east of the middle of Volta, and on the way down is difficult to follow, and when the sun sets on this world, it rises on Shramandazi. The Bantus are vague on this important and interesting point. The Benga, for example, although holding the absence of marriage there, do not take steps to meet the case as the Shwazi do, and kill a supply of wives to take down with them. This reason for killing wives at a funeral is another instance that, however strange and cruel a custom may be here in West Africa, however much it may at first appear to be the flower of rootless superstition, you will find on close investigation that it has some root in a religious idea and a common sense element. The common sense element in the killing of wives and slaves among both the Shwi and the Calabar tribes consists in the fact that it discourages poisoning. A Calabar chief elaborately explained to me that the rigorous putting down of killing at funerals that was being carried on by the government not only landed a man in the next world as a wretched pauper, but added an additional chance to his going there prematurely, for his wives and slaves, no longer strained by the prospect of being killed at his death and sent off with him, would, on very slight aggravation, put a bush in his chop. It is sad to think of this thorn being added to the rose leaves of a West Coast chief's life, as there are 99.9% of thorns in it already. I come across a similar case on the Gold Coast, when a chief complained to me of the way the government were preserving vermin in the shape of witches in the districts under its surveillance. You were no longer allowed to destroy them as of old, and therefore the vermin were destroying the game. For, said he, the witches were live almost entirely witches here live entirely on the blood they suck from children at night. They used, in the old days, to do this furtively, and do so now where native custom is unchecked. But in districts where the government says that witchcraft is utter nonsense, and killing its proficients utter murder, which will be dealt with accordingly, the witch flourishes exceedingly, and blackmails the fathers and mothers of families, threatening that if they are not bought off, they will have their child's blood, and if they are not paid, the child dies away gradually, poison again, most likely. I often think it must be the common sense element in fetish customs that enables them to survive in the strange way they do in the minds of Africans who have been long under European influence and education. In witching, for example, every intelligent native knows there is a lot of poison in the affair, but the explanation he gives you will not usually display this knowledge, and it was not until I found the wide diffusion of the ideas of the advisability of administering an emetic to the bewitched person that I began to suspect my black friends of sound judgment. The good jujuist will tell you all things act by means of their life, by which means their power, their spirit. Dr. Nasa tells me the efficacy of drugs is held to depend on their benevolent spirits, which, on being put into the body, drive away the malevolent disease-causing spirits. Electocurcio versus pathogenic bacteria sort of influence, I suppose. On this same idea also depend the custom of the appeal to ordeal, the working of which is supposed to be spiritual. Nevertheless, the intelligent native, believing all the time in this factor, squares the common sense factor by bribing the witch doctor, who makes the ordeal drink. The feeling regarding the importance of the funeral observances is quite Greek in its intensity. Given a duly educated African, I am sure that he would grasp the true inwardness of the Antigone far and away better than any European now living can. A pathetic story which bears on this feeling was told to me some time ago by Miss Sulcer when she was stationed at Creektown. An old blind slave woman was found in the bush and brought into the mission. She was in a deplorable state, utterly neglected and starving, her feet torn by thorns and full of jiggers, and so on. Every care was taken of her, and she soon revived and began to crawl about, but her whole mind was set on one thing with a passion that had made her alike indifferent to her past sufferings and to her present advantages. What she wanted was a bit, only a little bit, of white cloth. Now I may remark, white cloth is an anathema to the missions, for it is used for juju offerings, and has a rule to be made against its being given to the unconverted, or the missionary becomes an accessory before the fact to pagan practices. So white cloth the old woman was told she could not have. She had been given plenty of garments for her own use, and that was enough. The old woman, however, kept on pleading and saying the spirit of her dead mistress kept coming to her, asking and crying for white cloth, and white cloth she must get for her. And so at last, finding it was not to be got at the mission station, she stole away one day, unobserved, and wandered off into the bush, from which she never again reappeared, doubtless falling a victim to the many leopards that haunted hereabouts.